One introduction: Rosep view the United States government was on track in the Biden administration to reduce the prices for both clean energy heat pumps and clean energy electric cars. Trump tariffs are expected to upset those plans to prevent future air pollution and prevent climate change. The United States government should, instead of certifying wood stoves as safe when they are not safe, go forward with regulations that ban wood stove use and direct government money for use of forest refuse only. For home building and furniture building, for just a few examples of use of forest products for non-burning uses, it is well known from scientific and medical research that wood burning is a substantial source of PM 2.5 emissions, yet the wood burning industry uses the scientifically debunked theory named carbon neutrality of wood burning to argue that wood burning replacing coal burning in industry and in a trickle-down argument that wood burning should continue for home heating should continue. Presumably because it is called renewable, wood may be renewable in the sense that a tree can be planted in the place of a cut-down burned tree, but it takes centuries or decades for the newly planted tree to attain the stature of the cut-down burned tree. During those centuries or decades, photosynthesis, which converts CO2 to oxygen and so sequesters some carbon, will not take place at the same rate as photosynthesis was performed previously, and wood burning emits both CO2 and PM 2.5, and PM 2.5 is not absorbed by trees, so PM 2.5 is not diminished by planting a tree in the place of a cut-down and burned tree. In fact, a living tree closes its pores against the presence of PM 2.5 from nearby wood burning, just as humans hold their breath in the presence of PM 2.5 from nearby wood burning. And when a tree closes its pores, the level of photosynthesis that absorbs CO2 pollution goes down. Wood burning emits 90% PM 2.5 particulate matter of 2.5 micrometer size, the perfect size to infiltrate the human lungs, setting off a cascade of human health problems and early deaths. Contrary to many beliefs, wood burning emits 2.8 times the PM 2.5 as the fossil fuel coal burning, and wood burning emits 450 times the PM 2.5 as the fossil fuel natural gas burning. Replacing coal burning with wood burning creates more air pollution in the form of CO2 and PM 2.5 than coal burning. This emission data comes from testing the cleanest burning wood stove in the United Kingdom, the Eco-Design Wood Stove and International Convention does not count the emissions from wood burning. The emissions from wood burning are erased from all countries around the world when calculating if each country has met its climate goals. This non-counting or erasure of wood burning emissions data from climate goals does not mean wood burning emissions do not exist. Rosep view purple air PM 2.5 monitors hanging from the eaves of the house of a near neighbor should be used to measure the level of PM 2.5 in the air hyperlocally in the yards of near neighbors of indoor residential wood burners. If PM 2.5 levels exceed World Health Organization standards of 5 micrograms per cubic meter annually, then that evidence of air pollution from wood burning should lead to the shutdown of that indoor residential wood burning appliance, one appliance at a time if necessary. Episode 57 DGF, April 2nd, 2025. Liberal Crawford wins seat on Wisconsin Supreme Court by a 9-point margin. In episode 57 DGF 1, Wisconsin Supreme Court election results: Susan Crawford defeats Musk-backed Schimel. 2. Susan Crawford, flanked by Wisconsin Supreme Court justices, accepts victory in her race for Wisconsin Supreme Court justice. 3. Wisconsin Liberal Susan Crawford beats Musk-backed Schimel for Wisconsin Supreme Court seat. Wisconsin Supreme Court race: Liberal Susan Crawford beats Musk-backed candidate. Liberal judge says victory is against unprecedented attack on our democracy after defeating Schimel in the most expensive judicial election in U.S. history. For United States U.S. News: about a third of Americans stopped buying eggs due to rising costs. Study shows data says 34% of those in U.S. stopped purchasing breakfast staple and will not buy again until costs lower to $5 a carton. 5. United States U.S. political financing: billionaires spent record amounts during 2024. Federal election report: just 100 extremely wealthy families invested $2.6 billion during the election cycle. That put Trump back in the White House. 6. United States U.S. Senator Cory Booker speaks to the media off the Senate floor after completing a record-breaking speech in opposition to the Trump agenda. 7. U.S. politics: Cory Booker breaks record for longest Senate speech with Trump condemnation. 8. United States and the world: Tesla, how Tesla became a battleground for political protest. 9. United States: Seth Meyers, Trump has entered his Gaddafi era. Late night host discuss Trump mulling an illegal third term in office and launching a global trade war with tariffs. 10. France: could the Marine Le Pen guilty verdict help fuel the far right? 11. France: the left in France is celebrating the conviction of Marine Le Pen for embezzlement, but gloating will make it harder to beat the far right. Beware the backlash strategies used by Trump and Berlusconi. It is vital that the national rally leader is not able to capitalize on this verdict. 12. Headlines: The Guardian, April 2nd, 2025. Main content: 1. Wisconsin Supreme Court election results: Susan Crawford defeats Musk-backed Schimel. Excerpts edited by Rosep for brevity and clarity in relationship to residents against wood smoke emission particulates. A 501c3 nonprofit organization. International Business Times, April 2nd, 2025. Susan Crawford was the liberal candidate for a seat on the Wisconsin Supreme Court, but tech titan Musk piled money into the conservative bid to stop her. Key points: Crawford won with an over 9-point lead of 55% to 45% over right-wing competitor and Trump supporter Schimel, who urged his own supporters to accept the election results. Musk is said to have burned some $21 million toward the Schimel campaign. The Crawford victory maintains the 4-3 liberal majority at the Wisconsin Supreme Court and sent a message to her conservative rival and his supporters about how Wisconsin voters feel about leadership at the Wisconsin Supreme Court, how a county judge obliterated the Musk millions. Crawford served as a special assistant for science and technology policy for former President Barack Obama, who congratulated Crawford for the massive when also praising the people of Wisconsin for electing a judge who believes in the rule of law and protecting our freedoms. 2. Susan Crawford, flanked by Wisconsin Supreme Court justices, accepts victory in her race for Wisconsin Supreme Court justice. Excerpts edited by Rosep for brevity and clarity in relationship to residents against wood smoke emission particulates. A 501c3 nonprofit organization. The Guardian, April 2nd, 2025. Susan Crawford delivers blow to Trump and Musk in Wisconsin. Susan, the Crawford victory in the race for a seat on the Wisconsin Supreme Court has been hailed as a major win for Democrats after the contest was framed as a referendum on the popularity of Musk and Trump. Crawford, a liberal judge from Dane County, defeated Schimel, a former Republican attorney general and conservative judge from Waukesha County, after Musk and groups associated with the tech billionaire spent millions to boost his candidacy in what became the most expensive judicial contest in American history. More than $80 million was spent on the race, with Musk and affiliated groups spending more than $20 million. Alone. Musk reprised some of the tactics that he used last fall to help Trump win, including offering $100 to people who signed a petition opposing activist judges and offering $1 million checks to a smaller number of voters. Milwaukee, the largest city in Wisconsin, reported historic turnout for a spring election, with election officials saying in a statement Tuesday evening that due to the unprecedented high turnout, 7 polling places ran out of ballots. The Milwaukee Elections Commission said it was working to replenish resources to voters during the evening rush. Susan Crawford won the race for a seat on the Wisconsin Supreme Court on Tuesday, a win which the liberal judge said showed our courts are not for sale. Florida, however, 2 U.S. House of Representatives seats in Florida vacated by cabinet appointees went to Republicans on Tuesday, dashing Democratic hopes for an upset victory in the first federal special elections held since the president began his second term. Excerpts edited by Seth for brevity and clarity in relationship to residents against wood smoke emission particulates. A 501c3 nonprofit organization. The Guardian, April 2nd, 2025. Democratic candidates Josh Weil and Gabe Valmont were on track to lose the solidly red districts by much smaller margins than the more than 30 points that Democrats lost them by in November. That majority is hugely significant because the court will hear major cases on abortion and collective bargaining rights. The court could also potentially consider cases that could cause the state to redraw its 8 congressional districts, which are now drawn to advantage Republicans. New Jersey. Elsewhere, Cory Booker, the Democratic U.S. Senator from New Jersey, broke the record for longest speech ever by a lone senator, beating the record first established by Strom Thurmond, who spoke for 24 hours and 18 minutes in opposition to the Civil Rights Act of 1957. Excerpts edited by Seth for brevity and clarity in relationship to residents against wood smoke emission particulates. A 501c3 nonprofit organization. The Guardian, April 2nd, 2025. I rise with the intention of disrupting the normal business of the United States Senate for as long as I am physically able, Booker said near the start of his speech. I rise tonight because I believe sincerely that our nation is in crisis. He concluded his speech after 25 hours and 5 minutes. 3 Wisconsin Liberal Susan Crawford beats Musk-backed Schimel for Wisconsin Supreme Court seat. In the Wisconsin Supreme Court race, Liberal Susan Crawford beats Musk-backed candidate. The liberal judge says victory is against unprecedented attack on our democracy after defeating Schimel in the most expensive judicial election in U.S. history. He, excerpt Musk, said hours after the result that the long con of the left is corruption of the judiciary, and Musk stated that the most important thing was that a vote on the addition of Wisconsin voter ID requirements passed. Seth view Musk made this Wisconsin race a referendum on Musk and Musk and Trump lost in the court of public opinion, and Wisconsin showed it was not for sale. The judiciary is in safe hands under liberal leadership, and the court case Musk hoped to buy was not sold in 2025 if the majority of the other justices of the Wisconsin Supreme Court agree. In 2025, the Musk Tesla manufacturing outlets in Wisconsin will continue to not also be able to sell Tesla electric vehicles in Wisconsin. Other better electric vehicles sold in Wisconsin will be able to flourish and provide Wisconsinites cheaper, better electric vehicles than the Teslas monopolizing electric vehicle sales now, because they are forced down the throats of much of the rest of America. Tesla sales are falling because of their inferior quality and cost to consumers, and, of course, because of the toxic neo-Nazi politics of the head of Tesla, who has been given the Trump task of unnecessary federal worker firings in order to fund tax breaks for the rich. These firings, including firings of scientists and physicians, are leading to a brain drain to other countries and are leading to weakening of the United States safety net of Social Security and health safety, including development of vaccines and food safety regulations funded by our taxpayer money, among many other endangered programs helpful and essential to the average American as opposed to the wealthy in America. Excerpts edited by Seth for brevity and clarity in relationship to residents against wood smoke emission particulates. A 501c3 nonprofit organization. The Guardian, April 1st, 2025. Susan Crawford won the race for a seat on the Wisconsin Supreme Court on Tuesday, a major win for Democrats who had framed the race as a referendum on Musk and the Trump popularity. Crawford, a liberal judge from Dane County, defeated Schimel, a former Republican attorney general and conservative judge from Waukesha County, after Musk and groups associated with the tech billionaire spent millions to boost his candidacy in what became the most expensive judicial contest in American history. Today, Wisconsinites fended off an unprecedented attack on our democracy, Crawford said in a speech at her victory night event in Madison, Wisconsin. Stood up and said loudly that justice does not have a price. Our courts are not for sale. The result means that liberals will keep a 4-3 ideological majority on the state Supreme Court. That majority is hugely significant because the court will hear major cases on abortion and collective bargaining rights. The court could also potentially consider cases that could cause the state to redraw its 8 congressional districts, which are currently drawn to advantage Republicans. Crawford speaks to supporters at her election night headquarters in the capital city of Madison, Wisconsin. Milwaukee, the largest city in Wisconsin, reported historic turnout for a spring election, with election officials saying in a statement Tuesday evening that due to the unprecedented high turnout, 7 polling places ran out of ballots. The Milwaukee Elections Commission said it was working to replenish resources to voters during the evening rush. A combined more than $80 million was spent on the race, topping the previous record of $51 million that was spent in the 2023 Wisconsin State Supreme Court race. Musk and affiliated groups spent more than $20 million alone. Musk reprised some of the tactics that he used last fall to help Trump win, including offering $100 to people who signed a petition opposing activist judges and offering $1 million checks to voters, pointing to the potential to redraw House districts. Musk had said said the race might decide the future of America and Western civilization. Democrats seized on the Musk involvement in the race to energize voters who were upset about the wrecking ball he and his unofficial Department of Government Efficiency, or DOGE, have taken to federal agencies. They raised the stakes of an already high-stakes contest by holding out Wisconsin as a test case for Musk, saying that if he succeeded, he would take his model across the country. Growing up in Chippewa Falls, Wisconsin, I never thought I would be taking on the richest man in the world for justice, Crawford said on Tuesday night. And we won after the Musk involvement became public. Democrats saw an explosion in grassroots donations and people coming out of the woodwork to get involved in the race. Ben Wickler, the Wisconsin Democratic Party chair, said last month when the party tested its messaging. Wickler said messages that highlighted the Musk involvement in the race motivated voters who were otherwise disengaged from politics. A 65-year-old woman voted in Madison on Tuesday for Crawford because she said the Musk-supported Schimel would not rule fairly on the issues most important to her. I think it is shameful that Musk can come here and spend millions of dollars and try to bribe the citizens. The 65-year-old woman said, I do not think it should be allowed. He does not live in our state, and I do not think he should be able to buy this election. It makes me angry. Trump won Wisconsin in the presidential election in November by less than 1 percentage point, the closest margin of any battleground state. Democrats can puncture the Republican propaganda bubble, Wickler said in March, for laying the groundwork for flipping the House and the Senate in 2026 and winning governorships and state legislative majorities. The Supreme Court race can really point the way. Ken Martin, the chair of the Democratic National Committee, also celebrated the result. Tonight, the people of Wisconsin squarely rejected the influence of Musk, Trump, and billionaire special interests in their message. Stay out of our elections and stay away from our courts, he said in a statement in Madison. Crawford said she was ready to turn from the campaign trail, which she described as a life-altering experience, to the bench, where she promised to deliver fair and impartial decisions. Concluding her remarks, Crawford wished her mother watching from home a happy birthday and quipped, I know how glad you are to see the TV ads end. For United States U.S. News, about a third of Americans stopped buying eggs due to rising costs. Study shows data says 34% of those in U.S. stopped purchasing breakfast staple and will not buy again until costs lower to $5 a carton. Excerpts edited by Seth for brevity and clarity in relationship to Residents Against Wood Smoke Emission Particulates, a 501c3 nonprofit organization. The Guardian, April 1st, 2025. As egg prices have reached record highs, about a third of American consumers have stopped buying them in response to the rising costs. A new study suggests 34% of Americans have stopped purchasing eggs as prices for the breakfast staple are becoming less affordable. Consumers say they will not begin buying eggs again until costs come down to $5 or less for a carton. Shell shocked why eggs and their rising price are an American obsession. The report compared the average price of eggs across all U.S. states, observing a significant jump in 2018 when the average was $1.49. In 2025, that figure is sitting at about $5.18. The study found that nearly 95% of Americans have noticed the significant rise in egg prices, with shoppers reporting their perceived average as $7 a dozen. The average American said they would stop buying eggs when prices hit $8 a dozen. Illinois, a state which is about 3/4 farmland, is seeing the most dramatic jump in egg prices, increasing 1,048% from 42 cents to $4.82. The research also found that the majority of Americans, 61%, are eating fewer eggs due to rising costs, and 44% are seeing themselves using fewer eggs in their cooking and baking habits. It also found that more than 2 in 5 Americans, 42%, have observed other shoppers panic buying eggs. Egg prices have quadrupled. Chicken has doubled. The rising costs of eggs are largely due to the current spread of bird flu in the U.S. According to the study, 67% of Americans blame the higher egg prices on the bird flu, while 31% believe government regulations and policies are behind the expensive eggs. The price of eggs had quickly become a political talking point despite being driven mostly by a viral outbreak. Beginning last year, Trump campaigned heavily on soaring egg prices being a Democratic creation before acknowledging that bird flu was to blame after being elected. Still, it seems that a large portion of Americans believe that the government, Democratic or Republican, is culpable for egg prices. The U.S. has turned to other countries even amid the looming threat of tariffs in hopes of collecting more eggs, but has seen little success so far. 5 United States U.S. political financing billionaires spent record amounts during 2024 federal election. According to a report, just 100 extremely wealthy families invested $2.6 billion during the election cycle that put Trump back in the White House. Seth view this Republican billionaire spending included millions for Senate races Montana, Pennsylvania, and Ohio. Excerpts edited by Seth for brevity and clarity in relationship to Residents Against Wood Smoke Emission Particulates, a 501c3 nonprofit organization. The Guardian, April 1st, 2025. Billionaires spent record amounts during the 2024 federal election, according to a new analysis from Americans for Tax Fairness, a coalition of more than 420 national, state, and local organizations advocating for economic reforms. The report shows that during the election cycle that put Trump back in the White House and seated Republican majorities in both the House and Senate, just 100 extremely wealthy families invested $2.6 billion, an amount more than double what billionaire donors contributed just 4 years prior. The steep upward spending trends and the eye-popping amounts speak to the shifts in political power granted to the affluent and corporations in the wake of Citizens United v. FEC, the 2010 decision by the Supreme Court that enabled unlimited campaign donations in the 14 years since the Citizens United ruling. Billionaires have poured 160 times more funds into campaigns, according to the ATF report. The money for power exchange that was always hidden in the back rooms of American politics has disturbingly burst into the open in the second Trump administration. Musk and some of the wealthiest families in the world spent record amounts to secure trillions in tax breaks and deregulation, using cuts to vital services like healthcare, education, and nutritional support to pay for it. The ATF analysis found most of the support was thrown behind GOP causes and candidates, with 70% of them Funds coming from the top 100 contributing billionaire families going to Republicans. Musk, who has spent the weeks since the Trump inauguration slashing the federal workforce as the head of the so-called Department of Government Efficiency, set new standards of financial influence by bankrolling candidates, and causes his super PAC spent roughly $200 million to secure the Trump second term. He was joined by several Silicon Valley executives who collectively added more than $194 million more to campaign coffers during the U.S. presidential election, and others who were also offered roles in the new administration after investing in 2024 campaigns. Linda McMahon, a former wrestling promoter and business executive who now serves as the Secretary of Education, gave $25 million, with her husband, the Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick, contributed more than $21 million to Republicans, while attention has been focused on spending in the presidential election. Large sums were also given down ballot to help secure a Republican stronghold on the government. Billionaire spending in 3 key Senate races, Montana, Pennsylvania, and Ohio, constituted roughly half of expenditures in each, according to the ATF report. The money has continued rolling out. Musk threw cash at a candidate for the Wisconsin State Supreme Court. 6 United States U.S. Senator Cory Booker speaks to the media off the Senate floor after completing a record-breaking speech in opposition to the Trump agenda. 311 U.S. Senator Cory Booker delivers longest speech in Senate history. Video. The U.S. politics sketch. U.S. politics. Booker makes a stand against Trump and does not stop for 25 hours. Democrats have appeared lame and leaderless for 72 days, but then Cory Booker stood up and did something. Excerpts edited by Rozep for brevity and clarity. Relationship to residents against wood smoke emission particulates. A 501c3 nonprofit organization. The Guardian, April 21st, 2025. Would the senator yield for a question? Asked Democratic leader Chuck Schumer. Senator Cory Booker, who on a long day's journey into night had turned himself into the fighter that many Democrats were yearning for, replied with a wry smile. Chuck Schumer: it is the only time in my life I can tell you no. But Schumer was not taking no for an answer. I just wanted to tell you a question. Do you know you have just broken the record? Do you know how proud this caucus is of you? Do you know how proud America is of you? The first black senator from New Jersey had just shattered the record for the longest speech in Senate history, delivered by Strom Thurmond of South Carolina, an arch segregationist who filibustered for 24 hours and 18 minutes against the Civil Rights Act of 1957 in the normally somber Senate chamber. Around 40 Democrats rose to their feet in effusive applause. A few hundred people in the public gallery, where the busts of 20 former vice presidents gazed down from marble plinths, erupted in clapping and cheering and whooping. The senator took a tissue and mopped perspiration from his forehead. Since the Booker obstruction did not occur during voting on any bill, it was not technically a filibuster, but it marked the first time during the Trump second term that Democrats have deliberately clogged up Senate business. He said his constituents had challenged him to think differently and take risks, and so he did in an attention economy so often dominated by the forces of MAGA. His all-nighter offered a ray of hope in the darkness. Booker, by contrast, went old school, one man standing and talking for hour after hour on the Senate floor in a display of endurance reminiscent of a famous scene in the 1939 film Smith Goes to Washington, starring Jimmy Stewart. It had all begun at 7 p.m. on Monday, when wearing a U.S. flag pin on a dark suit, white shirt, and black tie, as if dressed for the funeral of the Republic, Booker vowed, "I rise tonight with the intention of getting in some good trouble. I rise with the intention of disrupting the normal business of the United States Senate for as long as I am physically able. I rise tonight because I believe sincerely that our country is in crisis. These are not normal times in America, and they should not be treated as such in the United States Senate. The threats to the American people and American democracy are grave and urgent, and we all must do more to stand against them." What followed was a tour de force of physical stamina. The 55-year-old, who played tight end for the American football team of Stanford University, asked a Senate page to take away his chair, so he was not tempted to sit down, which is barred by the Senate rules. He persisted. A woman vice president of communications at the liberal group American Bridge tweeted, "I worked for Cory Booker on the campaign trail, and I say this with love, that man drinks enough caffeine on a normal day to stay up 72 hours. This could go a while. Booker may also be a great advert for veganism to the end." His mind was clear and his voice was strong. This was also a masterclass in political rhetoric, which Schumer rightly praised for its crystalline brilliance. There were recurring themes: the Trump economic chaos and rising prices, billionaires exerting ever greater influence, Musk, the richest man in the world, slashing entire government programs without consent from Congress and inflicting pain on children, military veterans, and other vulnerable groups. Booker read dozens and dozens of letters from what he called terrified people with heartbreaking stories. The senator also warned of tyranny, Trump disappearing people from the streets without due process, bullying the media, and trying to create press corps like Vladimir Putin or Recep Tayyip Erdogan, seizing more executive power and putting democracy itself in grave peril. A few times he inverted the famous phrase of former President John F. Kennedy to warn that today it is no longer asked not what your country can do for you, it is what you can do for Trump. He acknowledged that the public want Democrats to do more, but he insisted that can only go so far, and as during the civil rights movement, the American people must rise up. He frequently referred to a moral moment and invoked the late Congressman John Lewis, famed for causing good trouble. "This is not who we are or how we do things in America." Booker said, "How much more can we endure before we as a collective voice say enough is enough?" Democrat Chris Murphy accompanied Booker throughout his speech. "We have passed the 15-hour mark," Booker observed. "I want to thank Senator Murphy because he has been here at my side the entire time." Other Democrats took turns to show up in solidarity, asking if Booker would accept a question. He agreed, reading from a note to ensure he got the wording right. "I yield for a question," while retaining the floor. Occasionally, he would quip, "I have the floor, so much power it is going to my head." Just after 10:30 a.m., Schumer, the minority leader, told Booker, "Your strength, your fortitude, your clarity has just been nothing short of amazing, and all of America is paying attention to what you are saying. All of America needs to know there are so many problems, the disastrous actions of this administration." They discussed Medicaid cuts before Booker responded, "You heaped so many kind things on me, but never before in the history of America has a man from Brooklyn said so many complimentary things about a man in Newark." Angela also Brooks, the first black senator from Maryland, entered the chamber, caught the eye of Booker, and raised a clenched fist in a shared act of resistance. As Booker approached the 24-hour mark, most Senate Democrats took their seats, and Democrats from the House of Representatives including Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffrey sat or stood in the chamber, the public and press galleries swelled Booker once. Again channeled Lewis the civil rights hero, I do not know what John Lewis would say, but John Lewis would do something. He would say something. What we will have to repent for is not the words and violent actions for bad people, but the appalling silence and inaction of good people. This is our moral moment. As Booker closed in on the record time of Thurman Murphy noted that this speech was very different today. You are standing not in the way of progress, but of retreat, he told his friend. Booker commented, I could break this record of the man who tried to stop the rights upon which I stand. I am not here though because of his speech. I am here despite his speech. I am here because as powerful as he was, the people were more powerful. Even when the record was beaten, he carried on. I want to go a little bit past this, and then I am going to deal with some of the biological urgencies I am feeling, he said. Finally, after 25 hours and 4 minutes, Booker declared, this is a moral moment. It is not left or right, it is right or wrong. Madam President, I yield the floor. Again the chamber erupted in cheers and Democrats mobbed their new unofficial leader. No one who was there will ever forget it. Booker had delivered a vivid portrait of a great nation breaking promises to its people, betraying overseas allies, and sliding off a cliff towards authoritarianism. He had also made a persuasive case that an inability to do everything should not undermine an attempt to do something. His was a primal scream of resistance. 7 U.S. politics. Cory Booker breaks record for longest Senate speech with Trump condemnation in speech that began Monday night. Democratic senator warns of grave and urgent danger of Trump administration. Excerpts edited by Rozep for brevity and clarity in relationship to residents against wood smoke emission particulates. A 501c3 nonprofit organization, The Guardian. April 1st, 2025. Cory Booker, the Democratic U.S. Senator from New Jersey, has broken the record for longest speech ever by a lone senator, beating the record first established by Strom Thurmond, who filibustered for 24 hours and 18 minutes in opposition to the Civil Rights Act of 1957. The Booker speech eventually ran to 25 hours and 5 minutes, having begun at 7 p.m. on Monday night, was not a filibuster, but instead an effort to warn of what he called the grave and urgent danger that Trump poses to democracy and the American people. I rise with the intention of disrupting the normal business of the United States Senate for as long as I am physically able, Booker said near the start of his speech. I rise tonight because I believe sincerely that our nation is in crisis. Booker said that he has heard endless stories of pain and fear from constituents who are both Democrats and Republicans due to the Trump policies. Institutions that are special in America, that are unique in our country, are being recklessly, and I would say unconstitutionally affected, attacked, and even shattered. Booker said in just 71 days the president of the United States has inflicted so much harm on American safety, financial stability, the core foundations of our democracy, and even our aspirations as a people. For from our highest offices a sense of common decency. These are not normal times in America, and they should not be treated as such. I say not allow this body to continue without doing something. The threats to American democracy are grave and urgent, emphasizing the role Congress should play to hold the executive branch accountable. Booker decried his fellow Congress members for failing to vote against Trump cabinet nominees and other policies. The most powerful man in the world and the richest man in the world have taken a battle axe to the Veterans Association, a battle axe to the Department of Education, a battle axe to the only agency solely focused on protecting consumers against big banks and other factors that might abuse them. He said, what will we do in this body? What will we do in the House of Representatives? Right now the answer is nothing. As he approached a full day of speaking, Booker was still on his feet, making sweeping gestures. As he spoke, Booker evoked the founding fathers, civil rights leaders, and lawmakers who stood up against McCarthyism in his calls for Congress members to more assertively hold the Trump administration accountable, yielding to a question from Connecticut Senator Chris Murphy. While retaining the floor, Booker rested a moment while Murphy recounted the longest speech in Senate history, given in 1957 by Republican Senator Strom Thurmond to filibuster the Civil Rights Act. What you have done here today, Senator Booker, could not be more different than what occurred on this floor in 1957. He said Strom Thurmond was standing in the way of inevitable progress. He added, today, you are standing in the way not of progress, but of retreat. The Booker speech is not technically a filibuster, as he is not trying to run down the time of the Senate to prevent a piece of legislation from passing. Instead, he has used his speaking slot to decry the Trump spending cuts, its attempt to abolish the Department of Education, the Trump attempts to bypass the judicial system, and the removal of people from the U.S. who speak out against the administration. The Booker speech has been supported with reams of quotes from speeches by the late American politicians John McCain and John Lewis, as well as excerpts from newspaper articles. Some of the fellow Democrats of Senator Booker have helped support him during his monologues, with several asking questions that have allowed Booker to have a break without yielding the floor. The Democratic Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer was the first to pose a question to his New Jersey colleague, and he praised Booker for his strength and conviction. You are taking the floor tonight to bring up all these inequities that will hurt people, that will so hurt the middle class, that will so hurt poor people, that will hurt America, hurt our fiscal conditions. As you document, Schumer said in his own question to Booker, just give us a little inkling of the strength, give us a little feeling for the strength and conviction that drive you to do this unusual taking of the floor for a long time, to let the people know how bad these things are going to be. Around his 20th hour of speaking, Booker offered an apology to his fellow Democrats for the current political climate, saying, I confess that I have been inadequate, that the Democrats have been responsible for allowing the rise of this demagogue. 8th United States and the world. Tesla, how Tesla became a battleground for political protest as demonstrations against Musk and his political ties spread. Tesla owners find themselves caught in a growing debate, turning a once iconic brand into a symbol of division. Excerpts edited by Rozep for brevity and clarity in relationship to residents against wood smoke emission particulates, a 501c3 nonprofit organization. The Guardian. April 1st, 2025, over the weekend protesters gathered at Tesla showrooms in hundreds of cities across the world to demonstrate against Musk laying waste the U.S. government in alliance with Trump. Their goals stigmatized the Tesla car's one sign in Manhattan read, "Burn a Tesla, save democracy." Protesters are using the commercial democracy of consumer products to influence U.S. political democracy. In New York City, several hundred anti-Tesla protesters gathered outside the Manhattan showroom of the EV company on Saturday. A 23-year-old woman, an organizer with Planet Over Profit, explained that the rally was not about protesting electric cars. "We are here to protest Musk, who has essentially held a Tesla car show on the White House lawn." She said, "We want to disrupt his business as much as possible, so that includes all Teslas, and not just the Cybertruck." The Musk fortune has dropped more than $100 billion as the Tesla stock has fallen by nearly half since its peak value in December 2024. The Musk political ventures are forcing many Tesla owners to either be a spokesperson for or against the company. Musk is synonymous with Tesla. In its comprehensive annual report, the company discloses in the section on risks that it is highly dependent on the services of Musk. Techno King of Tesla and our chief executive officer, Techno King of Tesla, is one of the Musk official if juvenile titles. Individual owners are being asked to justify their purchases or publicly declare the separation of their beliefs from their vehicles. Of particular concern are the dates of the purchases with "I bought this before Musk went crazy" bumper stickers proliferating as a sign of rebuke of the so-called Department of Government efficiency. For his own part, Musk is targeting a narrower and narrower audience, hosting a Tesla sales event on the White House lawn alongside one of the most poorly rated and divisive presidents in modern political history. "I cannot predict the fate of Tesla, but for now, widespread social souring on Tesla is making a dent in its finances." 9 United States Seth Meyers. Trump has entered his Gaddafi-era late-night. Hosts discuss Trump mulling an illegal third term in office and launching a global trade war with tariffs. Excerpts edited by Rozap for brevity and clarity in relationship to residents against wood smoke emission particulates. A 501c3 nonprofit organization, The Guardian. April 1st, 2025. Late-night hosts talk the Trump unspecific tariffs, plan the fallout from Signalgate, and Trump openly discussing an illegal third term. In office, Seth Meyers' March Madness is in full swing, and sadly, I am not talking about the basketball tournament, said Seth Meyers on Monday evening. Trump has entered his Gaddafi era. The late night host continued referring to the former Libyan dictator. "The Trump got masked agents snatching people off the street for opinions he does not like." Meyers mocked the blame game of the National Security Advisor Mike Waltz for the Signal Group chat used to discuss sensitive military plans for strikes in Yemen. Waltz claimed that the number for Jeffrey Goldberg, the Atlantic editor he invited to the chat, just got sucked into his phone. "It just got sucked in" is a terrible answer when your title is National Security Advisor. Meyers laughed. "It is worth noting that the President of the United States, with access to the best intelligence in the world, seems to know less about this earth-shattering scandal involving leaks of highly sensitive military plans than regular Americans at town halls who are very angry about it," he added. Stephen Colbert. And on The Late Show, Stephen Colbert looked into the Trump proposed trade war. "The President of the United States has a nearly unchecked trade authority, and for weeks now Trump has been unchecking and wrecking it in every direction, but will not tell anyone what he is going to do, why he is going to do it, or how long he is going to do it for." He explained, "This is not a bull or a bear market. This is bees. Bees." For weeks, Trump teased that this Wednesday will be Liberation Day with an unclear and unspecific amount of tariffs. "Liberation Day is like Independence Day in that we are the only country celebrating, and somebody is probably going to get some fingers blown off." Colbert joked. "If you do not like Trump tariffs, and not many people do, worry not." He added, "One day he will not be president, maybe," because in a new interview Trump said he would not rule out a third term as president. What kind of headline is that? Colbert fumed. "Who cares what he will not rule out? I will not rule out lying down on the Krispy Kreme conveyor belt and letting the glaze just take me, but that does not mean it is going to happen. The Constitution forbids it." He continued, quoting the 22nd Amendment, "The rules are crystal clear." 10 France. Could Marine the Le Pen guilty verdict help fuel the far right? Excerpts edited by Rozap for brevity and clarity in relationship to residents against wood smoke emission particulates. A 501c3 nonprofit organization, The Guardian. April 1st, 2025. The parliamentary leader of the far-right National Rally Party of France, Marine Le Pen, has been banned from public office for 5 years for embezzlement, ruining her chance of a presidential run. It is a sentence that has prompted anger among right-wing leaders across the world and led to accusations that democracy is being threatened. Along with more than 20 others, she was found to have used money for European Parliament assistance to pay party workers. The shock sentence could end the Le Pen hopes of running for president in 2027. She is now appealing and has hit back furiously, as have her supporters and allies. Some of her support could hurt her more than it helps. However, the Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov said in response that more and more European capitals are going down the path of violating democratic norms, while Trump and Viktor Orban have also weighed in. National Rally, the far-right organization known as RN, has tried hard to detoxify itself and distance itself from its anti-Semitic past under the leadership of the Le Pen father Jean-Marie Le Pen. Marine Le Pen says, and has also positioned itself as an anti-corruption party. But will RN supporters think this reputation is now in tatters, or could it lead to conspiracy theories? 11 France. The left in France is celebrating the conviction of Marine Le Pen for embezzlement, but gloating will make it harder to beat the far-right. Beware the backlash strategies used by Trump and Berlusconi. It is vital that the National Rally leader is not able to capitalize on this verdict. Rozep. Key excerpt. This far-right playbook has become alarmingly predictable. What follows are the examples in 3 countries of Trump in the United States, Georgescu in Romania, and Berlusconi in Italy. After the January 6, 2021 Capitol attack, Trump dismissed his legal challenges as politically motivated witch hunts orchestrating a maddening comeback. Asked on Monday about the Le Pen conviction, Trump said it was a very big deal and very much like what had happened in his own country. The same drama unfolds in Europe. In Romania, feudal appeal far-right populist Călin Georgescu against a ruling barring him from the presidential race barely dampened the fervor of Georgescu supporters. Instead, they surged behind another far-right figure, George Simeon, who now leads in the polls. Of course, both cases are dwarfed by the exploits of Silvio Berlusconi, the maestro of political comebacks. The late Italian former prime minister faced a barrage of charges from abuse of office and bribery to extortion and paying for sex sex with an underage girl, yet in 2014, he managed to overturn his conviction, casting his legal battles as nothing more than politically motivated persecution. Yesterday, Marine Le Pen followed suit, insisting that her prosecution is a political decision and a denial of democracy. This is how the far right operates when courts deliver unfavorable verdicts. These outcomes are reframed as proof of an orchestrated conspiracy, while any favorable decision is lionized as an indisputable victory for democracy. How should we France deal with this playbook? Given that Musk has tweeted several times in support of Le Pen, it is also crucial to recognize that the boundaries between global far-right movements are increasingly blurred with their mobilization tactics evolving rapidly. Democracies must confront this challenge head-on and urgently unite against the far-right threat before it is too late. Rosep excerpt from the conclusion of this article, showing a way to fight the neo-Nazi right-wing French national rally directly by supporting French political groups on the left. This is a call to arms for the left-wing France Unbowed Party and its leader Jean-Luc Mélenchon. It must renew the party, diversify its ranks, and invest in emerging talent that resonates with younger voters, mirroring the approach of Die-Link, translated as the left party in Germany, if it is to prevent the far right from advancing into the center of Europe for the first time since the Second World War. Excerpts edited by Rosep for brevity and clarity. And relationship to residents against wood smoke emission particulates, a 501c3 nonprofit organization, The Guardian, April 2nd, 2025. Rosep view. This article gives a description of what the problem with National Rally is for the French people. In addition to its leader Marine Le Pen being an embezzler, the National Rally conceals its true purpose, that its existence is meant mainly to steal from government coffers in aid of the rich. This is painfully reminiscent of what the Trump government is trying to do, to steal from the safety net coffers meant for voters of average income in the United States government programs, such as Social Security, to give tax breaks to the United States rich. Bardella in France, at under 30 years old, seems to roughly be taking the place of Marine Le Pen, similarly to how the 40-year-old J.D. Vance is standing in for Trump in some instances in the United States. From the article, the verdict is in, and the National Rally NR and its leader Marine Le Pen have been found to have employed fictitious European Parliament assistants between 2004 and 2016. The fraudulent scheme enabled the misappropriation of around 2.9 million euros in European funds, and Le Pen has now been barred from holding public office for 5 years. Could this mark the end for the National Rally? Highly unlikely, and the reason lies in the strategy of the NR party during the trial. Le Pen deliberately maintained silence in response to the allegations, a tactic some outlets dismissed as evidence of a weak defense, even questioning her credibility. Yet this quiet is far from a sign of weakness. It reflects a long-established approach that consistently shuns conventional maneuvers in favor of an intentionally unpredictable stance. The origins of this strategy date back to 2011, when she set in motion the demonization of the NR. This was not just an exercise in recalibrating the image and rhetoric of the NR party, it was a move to sever ties with the extremist legacy that had long marred the name of her family. Her rebranding transformed the Front National into the National Rally and charted a new course for the party. This process also involved a purge of party members who openly endorsed the World War II-era Vichy regime, which supported German Nazi occupation of France in World War II. A purge so uncompromising that it resulted in the banishment of her own father, Jean-Marie Le Pen. By casting her father aside as a cornerstone of her demonization campaign, she demonstrated a readiness to make brutal sacrifices. Now she may well have to repeat this tactic, sacrificing herself to clear the path for the rise of the prodigy of the NR, Jordan Bardella. At just 29 years old, Bardella embodies a generational shift that encapsulates the perils of a re-energized far-right. His narrative infuses the appeal of the NR party with a contemporary flavor, resonating particularly with young men. His proficient use of social media platforms such as TikTok has not only mobilized the base of the party, but also illustrated the evolving tactics of far-right organizing in the digital age. Current opinion polls reveal that the NR is enjoying a notable surge in support now, with the conviction of Marine Le Pen for embezzlement. Bardella may well be holding a winning hand, including the strategic weaponization of the legal setback of his mentor. First, we must not reproduce the Le Pen argument that her conviction was a political attack. Defending her is indefensible. The courts exist to deliver justice, and no one is above the law. Second, the Bardella meteoric rise in the polls demands a swift response from the French left against hate, economic isolation, and the promotion of white supremacy. NR clearly has a long-term plan centered on Bardella, and there is little doubt that this strategy will resonate with voters in the wake of the Le Pen conviction. Headlines, 12 headlines, The Guardian, April 2nd. 2025 world economy and environment. Average person will be 40 poorer if world warms by 4. New research shows climate crisis. The Guardian, world economy and politics. The Trump tariffs will be negative. The world over global stock markets fall as new Trump tariffs loom. Stock markets. The Guardian, world and economy and politics. Gold rises as markets await U.S. tariffs. Heathrow Airport was warned about power supply in days before closure. Business Live. The Guardian, world and economy and politics. Trump set to announce new round of tariffs on his so-called Liberation Day. Trump tariffs. The Guardian, United States weather service chaos. Trump cuts to NOAA disrupt staffing and weather forecast. Trump administration. The Guardian, United States economy. About a third of Americans stop buying eggs due to rising costs. Study shows U.S. News. The Guardian. United States politics. Billionaires spent record amounts during 2024 federal election. Report U.S. political financing. The Guardian, United States politics. Booker makes a stand against Trump and does not stop for 25 hours. U.S. politics. The Guardian, United States politics. Cory Booker breaks record for longest Senate speech with Trump condemnation. U.S. politics. The Guardian, United States politics. Comedian dropped by White House correspondents hits back. I would have been so terrifically mean. Trump administration. The Guardian, United States politics. Democrats still misunderstand working class voters to their peril. Dustin Guastella. The Guardian, United States and economy and politics. How Tesla became a battleground for political protest. Tesla. The Guardian, United States and economy and politics. Seth Meyers. Trump has entered his Gaddafi-era late-night TV roundup. The Guardian, United States and economy and politics. The Guardian view on the Trump Tariffs, a spectacle of struggle and control. Editorial: The Guardian. United States and economy and politics. Trump will not stop until every American relic reflects his imaginary worldview. Kelly Carter Jackson. The Guardian. United Kingdom and European Union. The Trump Liberation Day tariffs. What is at stake for UK and EU Trump tariffs? The Guardian. California wildfire threatening forest home of the oldest tree in the world. California wildfires. The Guardian. Wisconsin. Democrats hail major win as Susan Crawford delivers blow to Trump and Musk in Wisconsin. U.S. Politics Live. Wisconsin Supreme Court race. Liberal Susan Crawford beats Musk-backed candidate. Wisconsin. The Guardian. Canada. The ice is not freezing as it should supply roads to indigenous communities in Canada under threat from climate crisis. Canada. The Guardian. Canada and politics. Neil Young says he may be barred from returning to U.S. over Trump criticism. The Guardian. The Guardian. Australia, an environment monster surf batters Bondi icebergs pool and leaves trail of carnage across Sydney beaches. New South Wales. Europe, an economy and politics. Large majority of Europeans support retaliatory tariffs against U.S. Poll finds Trump tariffs. The Guardian. Europe, economy and politics. EU has a strong plan to retaliate on Trump tariffs, says von der Leyen. International trade. The Guardian. France. Could Marine Le Pen guilty verdict help fuel the far-right podcast? Marine Le Pen. The Guardian. France. The left in France is celebrating the Le Pen conviction, but gloating will make it harder to beat the far-right. The Guardian. Russia. Ukraine war briefing. U.S. anger builds on Russia over refusal to accept ceasefire. World News. The Guardian. Mozambique in Africa. Is it woke to care about the environment? How the Trump cuts are dismantling global conservation work. Wildlife. The Guardian. Japan. Will the close ties of Japan with U.S. survive the caprice and quirks of Trump? Japan. The Guardian. Taiwan and China. Japan unveils first plan to evacuate 100,000 civilians from islands near Taiwan in event of conflict. Japan. The Guardian.
One introduction. Rosette view. The United States government was on track in the Biden administration to reduce the prices for both clean energy heat pumps and clean energy electric cars. Trump tariffs are expected to upset those plans to prevent future air pollution and prevent climate change. The United States government should, instead of certifying wood stoves as safe when they are not safe, go forward with regulations that ban wood stove use and direct government money for use of forest refuse only for home building and furniture building. For just a few examples of use of forest products for non-burning uses, it is well known from scientific and medical research that wood burning is a substantial source of PM 2.5 emissions, yet the wood burning industry uses the scientifically debunked theory named carbon neutrality of wood burning to argue that wood burning replacing coal burning in industry, and in a trickle-down argument that wood burning should continue for home heating should continue. Presumably because it is called renewable, wood may be renewable in the sense that a tree can be planted in the place of a cut-down burned tree. But it takes centuries or decades for the newly planted tree to attain the stature of the cut-down burned tree. During those centuries or decades, photosynthesis, which converts CO2 to oxygen, and so sequesters some carbon, will not take place at the same rate as photosynthesis was performed previously, and wood burning emits both CO2 and PM 2.5, and PM 2.5 is not absorbed by trees, so PM 2.5 is not diminished by planting a tree in the place of a cut-down and burned tree. In fact, a living tree closes its pores against the presence of PM 2.5 from nearby wood burning, just as humans hold their breath in the presence of PM 2.5 from nearby wood burning. And when a tree closes its pores, the level of photosynthesis that absorbs CO2 pollution goes down. Wood burning emits 90% PM 2.5 particulate matter of 2.5 micrometer size, the perfect size to infiltrate the human lung, setting off a cascade of human health problems and early deaths. Contrary to many beliefs, wood burning emits 2.8 times the PM 2.5 as the fossil fuel coal burning, and wood burning emits 450 times the PM 2.5 as the fossil fuel natural gas burning, replacing coal burning with wood burning creates more air pollution in the form of CO2 and PM 2.5 than coal burning. This emission data comes from testing the cleanest burning wood stove in the United Kingdom. The Eco-Design Wood Stove and International Convention does not count the emissions from wood burning. The emissions from wood burning are erased from all countries around the world when calculating if each country has met its climate goals. This non-counting or erasure of wood burning emissions data from climate goals does not mean wood burning emissions do not exist. Rosette view. Purple air. PM 2.5 monitors hanging from the eaves of the house of a near neighbor should be used to measure the level of PM 2.5 in the air hyperlocally in the yards of near neighbors of indoor residential wood burners. If PM 2.5 levels exceed World Health Organization standards of 5 micrograms per cubic meter annually, then that evidence of air pollution from wood burning should lead to the shutdown of that indoor residential wood burning appliance, one appliance at a time if necessary.